Pandemic putting a lot into perspective, and for some, that meant ditching the big cities, making places like Central New York attractive regions to call home. Tonight, we introduce to you one Central New Yorker who left home for 11 years, but found his way back home during one of the most difficult years of his life. Amanda Hull reports.
My wife and I are both from the area and wanted to settle down and get out of the hustle and bustle of big cities, so we decided to relocate back to Syracuse.
Dan Molta left Central New York 11 years ago with his eyes on bright lights in a big city.
I always kind of knew that I would move out of Syracuse after graduating college, and the first place I did that was New York City and spent 5 years down there.
He then left the Big Apple for San Francisco, where he lived for 6 years until 2019, when conversations about relocating began with him and his wife.
We had considered relocating to smaller cities that are a little closer to Syracuse, but ultimately we wanted that proximity to family and friends, and the best way to do that was Syracuse.
The move was scheduled for March of 2020, the month coronavirus really took a toll on the United States.
If you remember, the mayor of San Francisco was the first to declare the state of emergency, and she did that the night before our movers were supposed to come and help us move out. So it was a little tricky getting out.
Yet Molta and his wife continued their move back to Syracuse without a place to call their own or even a car.
When we got back here, we had to move back in with my in-laws and my parents because nobody was showing apartments, and we had to buy a car and trying to navigate that whole thing as everything was shutting down.
Little did they know what the next 2 years would bring. Looking back, being anywhere but home was unimaginable.
My wife and I were both super thankful to be back here around family where we could go and social distance and see people in their backyards, whereas everything in big cities were shutting down. And we had a lot of friends there, but no family network, so it definitely would have been more isolating.
According to a review in Bloomberg City Lab, Syracuse saw a 2.3% gain of people moving into the city from March of 2020 to February of 2021. In that same time for New York City, 100 people left for every 84 who moved to the city. Dan says he appreciates all the things Central New York has to offer a little more now that he's older.
You change too. I was away for 11 years, so what's important to you at one point in your life is not that way, and other things become important. So just the size of the population in this area, everything's much more manageable. There's not a ton of traffic, housing prices, and the cost of living is much more affordable.
But being close to family was what sealed the deal.
It's been good. It's been what we've expected. I've gotten to play a lot more rounds of golf with my dad and see my friends and their young kids. So it's been what we wanted. Birthday parties with the family and nieces and nephews. So it's been great.
Broken promises and payments from Great Northern Mall's owner is on Onondaga County leadership's radar. Tonight, we've learned the troubled mall in Clay could go the way of Shoppingtown Mall, but there are a few more breaking points to hit before that can happen. Our Mary Keeler is working for you tonight.
In February, Great Northern Mall and Onondaga County leaders agreed on a payment plan that would have the owner pay Onondaga County $100,000 per month through April 2024. But the county executive's office telling me that they're not keeping up. James Rowley, the chairman of the Onondaga County Legislature, says he used to go to Great Northern Mall all the time.
I remember when it opened. It was a nice place to go.
So has his colleague, legislator Cody Kelly. The mall is just outside his district.
I've been going to Great Northern Mall just about my whole life, and unfortunately I've seen it begin to take kind of a downward spiral over the years.
That downward spiral is dominating the conversation now. It took a month to fix issues in the mall that kept it closed until this week. That's on top of 14 code citations we've uncovered since 2019 for maintenance and safety issues, including a disabled fire protection system. Now, the owner, Mike Cohan, is $5.1 million behind in property tax payments.
Is the county beyond a good faith, we're going to work with you solution with this owner?
I'll defer to the county executive, but in my humble opinion, yeah.
But it's not that simple. State law requires a certain amount of time before a property like Great Northern is seized from the owner. Initially, Cohan paid $1.1 million in back taxes, but nothing since. If Cohan continues to miss payments, Onondaga County could seize Great Northern.
We are exploring all legal options, and I think this owner knows from our history that he knows I'm not scared to take that next step to fight to get our money back or take the property.
County Executive Ryan McMahon says he's watching what happens. The county took over Shoppingtown Mall in DeWitt in 2020 after owners there failed to pay nearly $10 million in back taxes. It'll now be turned into a multi-use property called District East. Could something similar be coming for Great Northern?
We need to have all of the ducks in a row to make a move like that, but certainly I know that the owner knows we're not happy. I think the owner knows we're not interested in a new payment agreement.
I asked County Executive Ryan McMahon just how long the county might have to wait if they need to seize this property if it comes to that. He says in New York State, normally it takes an owner of a property like this to be delinquent on tax payments for 3 years. The last payment the owner of Great Northern Mall made was in October.
Good morning, Lieutenant.
Good morning, Molly. How you been? All right?
I've been good. Keeping busy as always.
Good. Glad to hear that.
Thank you for asking, and there's a lot of questions I had to ask you this morning. A lot of people have questions about this Destiny Mall shooting that started off with people exchanging something that they found online.
Yes, so that case is still a little bit under investigation, so I can't get too in depth, but we did have a scenario that played out where there was an exchange of property that took place in the mall. One thing I'd like to talk about, obviously it's alarming anytime shots are fired and in a mall where a lot of people go. For what it's worth, that this was an isolated incident that occurred between the two people. It wasn't a bathroom, and it was after hours, so a lot of the stores were closed and patrons weren't there. But either way, it's an important topic because we've seen a rise in these type of crimes, which is going to be when you're buying and selling things online and then you actually go to meet up with this person. But this is definitely a trend that we've seen increasing. So I appreciate the opportunity to get some information out to people to try to do it safely and not be the victim of crime.
And now it's time for your tip of the week. A lot of people are just asking, the fact that it was in a bathroom just seems suspicious. When it comes to meeting people in person to buy or sell items, what do you suggest?
Right. So I would never suggest doing it in a bathroom. What we always say is it needs to be in the most public area possible. So one of the biggest things we can do, first you have to get to know the person that you're buying and selling from. You have to know as much as you can about them, whether you get a phone number, whether you can hopefully get their name and look them up. Secondly, you're going to want to bring a friend. And like we've said before, a big one. Bring 2 or 3 friends, more the merrier. But you're going to want people with you because these things are happening and people are getting taken advantage of. And that is really one of the best ways to not make yourself a victim. All right, so some buying and selling tips since we're on the topic. So really good thing is make sure that you're meeting a person during the day. Busy public place, like I said. Mall food court, not mall bathroom. Don't anywhere that's secluded. You don't want to meet in the back parking lot. You don't want to meet on a side street. You want it to be up front and as public as possible. Very, very cautious if you decide to meet at your home. I understand if you're selling a fridge or something. Again, if you do decide to sell at your home, we'd advise not to, but make sure you have some friends with you and try to be as safe as possible there. Again, don't meet in a random parking lot. Don't ever get into a person's car, again, unless you've established that level of trust that you're comfortable doing that, but we would ask you to avoid that as much as possible, or actually inviting someone in your car. You're better off getting out of the car and exchanging out in public as much as possible. But also know that even if the sale and exchange goes well, you still have to be mindful of, the payment too, because we have seen people get handed fake cash and take off with your property, and then you're out your property, and then you're with counterfeit money, so you lose twice.
And Syracuse Police, you guys are offering citizens to learn more about, the process of being a police officer and crimes as well through the Citizens Academy.
Yes, we're starting up our first academy for citizens this year. We did one last year. We're going to plan on having 2 this year. This is a really unique opportunity for people to come to the police department 1 night a week for a couple hours. You get to understand the laws, the procedures that we go through, and then we talk about the patrol division, the investigations, canine, and then you actually have 2 practical days where we teach you about what it takes to actually arrest someone, and then we give you an opportunity to try to arrest one of the volunteers, and then also a kind of shoot, don't shoot scenario where, someone will come at you with a knife or maybe a wallet in their hand, and you get to play out the scenario and see what it's like. And it's a lot different when you're actually in the moment and your heart's racing and you're fumbling with handcuffs and we're, yelling at you and putting a cell phone camera in your face. You can tend to see a little bit what we go through. And it's really just designed to have a mutual understanding and try to bridge that gap, kind of like what we've been doing here for the past several years with this show. So maybe we'll see you come attend.
Maybe. I got to check my schedule, sir.